Prescott was healthy again. Shannon, was this inbounds or out of bounds for Graham to say?
Oh, it's inbounds. And the body language is huge, Skip, when you're on the football field. I remember playing the Super Bowl, Skip, and we were running the ball down their throats. And we were on the sideline, and Alex Gibb said, look over there. Skip, we see everybody, Big Gilbert Brown, Darius Holland, Reggie, Gabe Wilker, Santana Dawson. Okay, yeah, it won't be long now, Skip. It won't be long now. We huge in the body language. You make a play and everybody looking around like, come on, man. Skip, for the last 5 or 6 weeks, we've talked about big dollar guys, big contract guys not living up to their contracts. And that guy, number 19, has gone by untalked about. But since Dak Prescott has gotten hurt, 22 catches, 254 yards, 1 touchdown, averaging 51 yards a game, 0 100-yard games, 1 catch for 5 yards against Philly. We talked about D-Law. We talked about some of these other guys that was making big dollars. That guy right there hasn't lived up to $20 million. Now, you tell me he's playing like a $20 million receiver? No, it's absolutely inbound. It is absolutely right because he's been known to disappear for long stretches, Skip. Remember, he got off to that great start. And then like the last 3 games, he disappeared. Last year, the last 5 to 6 games, he disappeared. You talked about how it got so bad in Philly. Coach Clapp said, nah, you good over here with me. Put a tight end in and had him running routes where a guy making that kind of money is on the sideline. It's absolutely inbounds, and he has not lived up to what he's getting paid, Skip.
It was absolutely out of bounds because it was beneath the dignity of a Brandon Graham I used to respect until now. Now he's talking big, bad Brandon Graham.
The Eagle.
I'm talking tough about Amari Cooper. It's so beneath his dignity. Are you kidding me? You're late to this party, my man, because I was first guessing this. I was showing you the way on this one because in the Jets game, he plays 1 game at the Jets. They were terrible.
One play,
One play, and he's out. I don't know, my leg hurts. And then he came back against Philly at home the next Sunday night.
And
lit him up.
Yep.
Well, what are you doing? So we lose 24-22 to the Jets up there. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then it got worse and worse because at New England, remember what happened?
Stephon Gilmore
made him quit. He was over crying, pouting on the sideline. And it wasn't that the coaches pulled him. He took himself out because he couldn't handle being handcuffed.
Made him tap out.
What are you doing? You want $20 million?
And Jerry gave it to him.
And finally, to your point, it got so bad at Philadelphia last year. Did Brandon Graham not notice that the coaches yanked out Amari Cooper from the final drive of the game? It was Tavon Austin. And actually, Tavon ran by the corner, was wide open, and Dak airmailed him and missed him for the throw that could have tied the game. They'd have to go for 2, right? Okay, so that's the guy who, because it was rumored, it was speculated that the Washington football team wanted to pay him a lot of money. Jerry said, I guess I'm damned if I do or don't.
I can't let him go to the rival.
I can't let him go, and I'll pay him $20 million. And here's what you get. So now I have to listen to Brandon Graham gloating about a game in which he almost lost to Ben DiNucci. Ben DiNucci, for a while, had them on the ropes. And he has his own quarterback, talking about living in a glass house. I mean, his own quarterback is a horror show. And he's talking about Amari Cooper's body language.
But let me ask you a question. Where's the lie? Let me look. Let me flip the page. I'm looking for the lie.
It's a duh of a lie.
I'm looking for the lie that he told about Cooper.
But again, it's beneath you. Aren't you better than that? Didn't you, once upon a time, didn't you win the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And you actually forced the GOAT. He made 1 play on the GOAT, knocked the ball out of his hands. And it actually sealed the deal, right?
But Skip, we talked about all these other guys that's not living up to it. And we have yet to mention it. All the times that we've talked, we haven't mentioned Amari. Skip,
I have. I'm done with him. I'm down. He's dismissed.
He on the Cowboys. Anybody that's on the Cowboys, you win.
Okay. What do the Eagles have to gloat about?
We're in first place.
You're in first place with what kind of record?
Better than yours.
It's barely better.
It ain't no barely.
Yes, it barely.
We way better than y'all.
You got tied by Joe Burrow. At Philly, you got tied.
Y'all will get beat by Joe Burrow.
Okay. Well, we well might. But the point is, you've had a miserable year by your standards. You should have run away with this division. Huh?
Skip, just imagine If we didn't have, just like we lost all our weapons.
We've lost our first and our second quarterback. You still have give it to him Wentz.
Whoa.
Give it to him. He's just coughing balls up all over the carpet.
What about Coop?
Yeah.
You got Amari Cooper.
Yeah. I
and
don't
CeeDee Lamb.
I got CD.
And what did I tell you?
I told you CeeDee Lamb's my number one.
He had the perfect name. CDLs pile up. That's what I see. You see him, Skip?
Oh,
way to go,
that's
Brandon.
harsh.
That's what you got. You got 7 of these, Skip.
Pile on.
And before it's over, you have about 13 of them.
That's harsh. That's harsh.
I'll give y'all 2 more wins.
Guys, the Masters in November has begun. So is Tiger's quest for another green jacket. We'll give you the. Brett Favre said he was surprised that the Eagles stuck with their quarterback despite Nick Foles being the one who led them to a Super Bowl title. Doug Peterson responded to the Hall of Famer's comments by saying, quote, "I respect Brett's opinion. We're friends, but I haven't talked to him and he's entitled to that. That's about it." Reporters then had to ask Peterson several follow-ups before he finally said Wentz was the team's quarterback of the future. So, Shannon, how convincing was Peterson's response?
It wasn't very convincing at all, Skip. I understand. How hard was it for Doug Peterson to say, Brett's a very good friend of mine. I've known Brett almost 30 years. I was his backup in Green Bay. We're very good friends. We talk, we hang out, we do things like that. But Carson Wentz is our quarterback. Carson Wentz is our guy. How hard was that to say? Skip, it was almost as the reporters like, Doug, do you realize the ditch that you're digging? Do you realize you're digging it deeper and deeper and you're throwing dirt on your own head? Skip, they kept asking him. And it wasn't until like the umpteenth time that he finally said, Brett's entitled to his opinion, but Carson's our guy. You could have nipped this in the bud. Skip, this would not even been a story. Had he answered it that way the first time, it would have been asked and answered and moved on.
You don't even need to say, Brett's my friend. You don't need to say that. Just say, no. Carson's our guy.
Right.
Period. End of story.
Brett's entitled to his opinion, as you guys are and everybody else. I'm sure everybody has an opinion who we should play, who we shouldn't play. But Carson Wentz is the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's our guy. We drafted him. We moved up to get him. We're happy to have him. Boom. Done. It was after they asked and asked and asked and asked that he finally came around to this. And this doesn't bode well, Skip. This doesn't... See, for me, I don't think Doug is Carson Wentz's guy. Carson Wentz is a Howie Roseman guy. And that's all that matters.
I would agree.
So when the nuts and bolts of this...
And Howie Roseman's the GM.
General manager. Skip, for this Nick Foles, Skip, you do realize that every loss that the Bears have has happened as Nick Foles is the quarterback. He scored 11, 20, 23, 10, 23, and 17. They average 17 points a game. The 2 and 4. That's what they are with Nick Foles. Trubisky, as terrible as he's been, he was 3-0. So I don't know. I'm sure walking to him, phone was ringing up the hook. Man, you heard what your head coach, you heard what Doug said? Now what did he say? Man, it took him like 2 or 3 minutes to get around to say you his guy. Now, Wentz walked into the room, he side-eyed him, Skip. It didn't even have to be like this. Just say, hey, Carson's our quarterback, and we're very lucky to have Carson Wentz.
So what do you always tell me when a close friend or a family member tweets something about someone?
You already know.
I know where you heard that from.
Exactly.
From him.
Yes.
Right?
It got Golden Tate in trouble.
It did.
It got Golden Tate demoted to play practice on the practice team, and he didn't even travel.
And that was his wife?
Why? Because we don't, Skip. They normally say, why did not throwing you the ball? She said targets. Where'd she get targets from?
There you go. So where did Brett Favre get this notion from that they should have kept Nick Foles? I'll bet he does talk fairly regularly to Doug Peterson.
Skip, they were really close.
Yep. So at some point along the trail, he has heard from Doug Peterson, you know what? Probably should have just hung on to Nick, because Doug Peterson wrote a whole book about that playoff run to that Super Bowl championship called Fearless.
Yes.
And Doug Peterson, the one thing I do love about him is he can be arrogantly honest to a fault. He loved what he did with Nick Foles because they were a clique. They worked well together because they were on the same wavelength. And whatever Dougie P saw, Nick Foles saw and was able to execute it.
Correct.
All the way to the Philly special, which actually Nick had the confidence, the wavelength with the coach to be able to
like
suggest
Philly special
it.
here?
Yeah. And yeah. Oh, good. Once you have that confidence in each other, good things can start happening. That two-way confidence doesn't operate between Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson.
Right.
And Carson is known for a couple of years. Doug's not completely sold. And what did they do in the draft? They drafted my man, Jalen Hurts, from the University of Oklahoma by way of Alabama. And